obviously all things House of the Dragon and the book Fire and Blood by George R. R. Martin, which the TV series is based off of. This is a family and complete breakdown, so to avoid this during your family Thanksgiving, stay tuned. Okay, so first I'm going to start off with talking about the book that the TV series is based off of, which is Fire and Blood by George R. R. Martin. Then I'm going to talk about the TV series, and then we'll do some comparisons and go from there. So, I struggled with reading the Fire and Blood book, not gonna lie. I do love George R. R. Martin's other works, like Game of Thrones, that whole series, The Song of Ice and Fire, but this one was just so clinical. What I mean by that is it's being told from the perspective of the Maesters, who are just recounting the historical context of the entire family. And it's very dry, not a lot of drama. Unlike Game of Thrones, where it's told from different perspectives of different characters, so you really get to see it from their point of view firsthand. It's a third person point of view, just writing out, what happened, what days, and all that. So it was a bit rough. So I got the audible, excuse me, and I was listening to it as I'm driving in the car, and that made it a little bit easier. But I'm not gonna lie, it didn't flow very well for me, so it took me a minute to read it. But gotta say, wow, this family is in just absolute breakdown. I mean, the Targaryens up to this point don't really have a good reputation. At this point they're two generations away from the Magar the Cruel, who just he damn near destroyed the empire. Then you had Jacaerys, um, who's probably one of the greatest kings of the Targaryen line. And basically, he ruled for roughly 60 plus years and had peace. And so basically, there was a issue then with Jacaerys. Because in order to understand this part, kind of have to go back to Jacaerys, the first of his name. And so all of his sons end up dying in this just stupid battle. And so now comes the line of who's going to succeed him after, he passes away. And so it comes down to really two of his heirs, his only daughter, which is Rhaenys, Princess Rhaenys, and his cousin Viserys, first of his name. And of course, they had the whole Grand Council decide. Of course, they picked the man over the woman. That comes up a lot in this series. So, side-eyeing that. But there you go. So we're going into this now with Viserys, who honestly probably didn't even want to be king based upon what the accounts of the Maesters are saying, but he was kind of forced into this role. So now he and his wife, sister wife, House of the Dragons, y'all. That's how they got down. They're trying hard to have, more children, so they have a son, because the section always goes through the son. They only have one daughter, Rhaenyra, Princess Rhaenyra, who's basically a child at this point. So, King Viserys I had a generous and bold nature and was well loved by his lords and small folk alike. He was a young king when he came into power, and his grace was very open-handed. He would give people whatever they wanted. He was just a very peaceful person. Didn't like conflict. Was trying to essentially just continue on the reign of King Viserys I, and just wanted to have peace. He didn't like conflict. Didn't like drama. He just wanted to keep the good Targaryen name, because Maegor the Cruel really destroyed the Targaryen name, so he didn't want to be that. But of course, in a family like this, that's going to be kind of hard, especially when you have a little brother like Daemon Targaryen. Now, Daemon Targaryen is like the epitome of the morally gray character. Now, if you haven't seen that episode, pause right here, go listen to the episode on morally gray characters, come back, we'll get a discussion. So Daemon Targaryen is his younger brother, and by all accounts, very ambitious, moody as almighty goodness, hot-tempered, and just basically the antithesis to Viserys. And they tried everything to figure out where can we put this person where he doesn't cause enough drama. They tried giving him, Master of Coin. That didn't work out. They tried giving him another role, and it just didn't work out. They finally gave him the commander of the City Watch, and he did very well with that. A little too well. I mean, he was going out in the middle of the streets. Anyone he suspected of a certain crime, like case in point, if anyone was a thief, he would cut off their arms. No trial, no prosecution. Just go out there. If the person was a thief, okay, cut your arm off. If a person was a just of the R word, can't say the full word here because of copyright, but y'all know what I mean. If you know what I mean, he would basically gild them. Google it if you don't know what that means. And so yeah, he was very eccentric, if you will. He's basically what small folk would say. He was a true the blood of the dragon runs thick for him. Let's just put it at that. And that caused a lot of problems. I mean, Viserys wants to be peaceful, and his brother is bringing all the drama. He's bringing trouble essentially. So he had to kind of send him away, married him off to this woman of the Vale who he absolutely despised, and potentially might have killed. That part they leave out, and they do say that the lady falls from her horse and is crushed by a rock. But we can kind of read through the lines there and realize Daemon probably killed her. As at that point, Viserys didn't have a living son, so unofficially, Daemon Targaryen was considered to be the heir to the throne. And so Daemon basically self-proclaimed himself to be, the Prince of Dragonstone, which is the seat where typically the heir would sit before, have going to King's Landing in order to become the ruler of Westeros. And he was known by his friends as the Prince of the City, Small Folk, the Lord of Flea Bottom. Now, the king did not want his brother to succeed him because he knows his temper and he knows that he would probably be another Magar the Cruel. But he loved his brother, they're family. Blood is thicker than all. And so he would always forgive his many, many, many offenses, except for one. And that being his daughter, Viserys' daughter, Princess Rhaenyra. Now, Princess Rhaenyra absolutely loved her uncle Daemon. More on that in a minute. But yes, so whenever he would go away on his main adventures, he would come back, bring her gifts, always dote over her, treated her like a real princess. Whereas her father kind of ignored her through these years. He was just focused on having a son. So he kind of picked up the slack there and kind of groomed her. How's the dragon? I mean, they did do that. Sister to sister, cousin to cousin, uncle to niece. Which just makes my skin crawl, but okay. Now, it's also important to note that there are really two accounts that this historian is writing from. He's basically writing it from a third person point of view. He's basically going off of two people, one being a and the first one being from the stance of Septim Eustace. Now, this is the person who was basically a personal confidant to the royal court. He was a confidant not only of the King Viserys, but also of his queen, Alicent. So he was there with a bird's eye view of everything. But also, we get a more rambunctious, more scandalous recounting of these events from the King's Fool mushroom. Now, it's important to note that sometimes mushrooms was known to embellish certain stories, but the reason why they still continue to put his account in the story as well too is because sometimes Septim Eustace and the mushroom the fool, their accounts would line up, so that's why they would do that. So that's the background story. Let's dive into the real meat of it. Oh, I almost forgot. It's actually a third account too of Grand Maester Rhaenyra. So sometimes all three of these accounts do align, sometimes they don't align. So it really is up to the reader to decide which story you really want to believe, depending on what team you're signing on to as well. So, but at one point, all three, Septim Eustace, Mushroom the Fool, and Grand Maester Rundisir, forgive me, I tend to butcher names, they all agree that the king's hand, who was Sir Otto Hightower, did not get along with the king's brother, Daemon Targaryen. It was Sir Otto Hightower actually who convinced Viserys to remove Prince Daemon as Maester of Corn, then as Master of Law, and actions the hand soon came to regret as commander of the City Watch. As I stated before, he was going around killing people. He assumed were murderers, guilting people who did the R word. He was cutting off limbs from people who were considered thieves. So, I mean, he did clean up the place, but Lord. But I will say that as commander of the City Watch, he did put into certain protocols that even to the Game of Thrones realm, 170 odd years later, they still do. Case in point, he was the reason why the City Watch became known as the Gold Cloaks, because he was the one who gave them those gold cloaks to begin with. So he did some good stuff too. I mean, he tried. But it is also important to note this kind of harsh rivalry between the two, because in this book, it's actually important to note that Sir Otto Hightower wanted Princess Rhaenyra to supplant her uncle as heir, because that's how much he disliked him. He would rather a girl be on the throne than versus Prince Damon. So that was really out of spite. Um, yeah. Actually, word for word, what Sir Otto Hightower said was, "Better the realm's delight, Princess Rhaenyra, than the Lord of Fleabot, Prince Damon." So yeah, I mean, I mind you, this is a patriarchy. Men are the head of the households. Women are sold as property, not only as sex work, but also as marriage as well too. So that's the world that this Westeros is in. But just hmm. But here's the thing: because of the Great Council 101 that was followed with not Prince, King Jacaerys. There we go. Brain fart. All right, we're back. A male claimant must prevail over a female. So, in the absence of a true-born son, the king's brother would come before the king's daughter, as Balon had come before Rhaenys in 92 AC. And what was King Viserys' point on this? Again, he didn't like division, he didn't like debate, he didn't like being put between two different people. He didn't want to choose between his daughter, who he loved very dearly, and his brother, who he also loved despite his many flaws. So he kind of like dragged his feet on this a little bit. There was no really proclaimed heir, and that's what made the council all snippy with each other. Like, we need a proclaimed heir. It's not good to have a monarch and no proclaimed heir on the throne. But then the king went to the council and said, "Hey, my queen, Queen Emma, is with child again." But that joy didn't last long, because when she went into labor, not only did she die, but the son died as well too, only surviving the queen for a day. So yeah, which, I mean, mind you, the time setting that, mind you, it is a fantasy, obviously, but we're talking about medieval times, so there was a 50-50 chance that a woman would survive childbirth. So yeah, that is not uncommon. Among the poor folk, among the small folk, among the rich, 50-50 chance that a woman would survive childbirth. So everyone loved Queen Emma. She was loved and beloved by all. And so there was a great mourning throughout the kingdom, except for Prince Damon. After hearing about, the prince's death, he took to the street, Silk Street, and bought out an entire brothel and raised his cup to the young prince, styling him the heir for a day. I don't know about y'all, but if I had a family member who called my kid this after having lost them, come on now, just Viserys, while being the most peaceful king he could possibly be, he was livid naturally. How dare you? And and really, just purely out of spite, he decided to go against what King Jaehaerys the First, his successor, predecessor, yeah, did, and essentially officially named his daughter Princess Rhaenyra as heir to the Iron Throne. And really, I mean, while she is more than qualified to be the heir, he mainly did this just to spite Damon. Because, you hurt me, I hurt you. Hurt people, hurt people. You've heard me say this on the channel all the time. Hurt people, hurt people. Prince Damon, of course, didn't take this too kindly, so he ended up quitting his position at the City Watch, took one of his paramours, which is known as the White Worm, took her back with him to Dragonstone, and that's where they stayed for a while. But even though he had declared Princess Rhaenyra as his heir, the council still wanted him to at least try to think about remarrying and attempt to have a son. There were many options, one being the Lady Lena, who was the daughter of Lord Corlys, who is married to Princess Rhaenys. Now, mind you, there's been a rift, and Lord Corlys is of House Velaryon. There was a rift between House Velaryon and House of Targaryen because of the fact that his Lord Corlys' wife, Princess Rhaenys, was overlooked in the line of succession. So, what better way to help heal that rift and to marry, the King Viserys to Lady Lena? Well, here's the thing. Lady Lena, she's only 12 years old. And the king was like, "I'm not marrying a toddler." I mean, in comparison to his age and her age, she's a toddler. I mean, yes, she's a preteen, but still, she's a baby. So, of course, the ambitious, Sir Otto Hightower, he was like, "You know what, why don't you marry my daughter? Alicent. She's 7 and 10, 17. A much better option, I would say. I mean, well, at the moment she was. And honestly, though, it was just a better option. I mean, for me, my point of view, I'm just saying I would rather marry a 17-year-old than a 12-year-old. So yeah, so King Viserys took Queen Alicent and Lady Alicent to be Queen Alicent. And once again, House Balarian was overlooked and on their way to the throne. And again, the rift was great. Now, at first, Queen Alicent and Princess Rhaenyra had a great relationship. She regarded her as a mother figure. They really got along very well. But as she got older, things changed. And especially when Queen Alicent gave him a son, Prince Aemon, that's when the relationship really started to tense up. Okay, actually, correction. So her firstborn son was Aegon after the Conqueror Aegon the First. Their second child was Helena, a princess, and then her third child was Aemon. Now, even though Aemon was third in line, he was literally when he came out, he was twice the size of his brother. So he looked older than his eldest, looked older than his elder brother. So, around the time that she was giving birth to children, Rhaenyra was still considered the heir. So, whenever they would hold court or have council, she would be sitting in the heir spot. But most of the lords' maids were like, don't you have a son now? Shouldn't he succeed her? And so that's where the strife was there. Because while King Viserys, loved his daughter, wanted her to be the heir, there was still that kind of, mind you, it's still a patriarchy. Men come before women in this world. Hmm. So yeah, as you can tell, I mean, Queen Alicent goes from being sweet and amiable to being very ambitious herself. I mean, obviously, she wants her son, Aegon, on the throne because that will make her more powerful. That will make her the first lady of the realm, really. And that's her way of gaining power. And so she doesn't want that taken away, and she doesn't want that option taken away from her. And but also Princess Rhaenyra, she doesn't want to be a vessel just to push out air. She wants to rule too, so she doesn't want her power taken away. So once again, you have woman against woman. Allie did not mean to do that. And as always, King Viserys just continued to drag his feet on this issue as well. I mean, everyone else was telling him, like, what about the Great Council of 101? What about all their requests were basically falling on deaf's ear at this point. King Viserys was not trying to hear none of that. His daughter, Princess Rhaenyra, was succeeding him on the throne, and that was the end of that. And of course, next to Queen Alicent, loudest among these was, of course, Sir Otto Hightower. Because, of course, I mean, highly convenient that he would want, obviously, his grandson to be sitting on the throne. I mean, he's the hand of the king, his daughter is the queen, and now to have a third member on the actual throne? I mean, come on. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, it is an enticing idea to sit upon the Iron Throne up with all these swords and whatnot and be able to rule over the seven kingdoms. But it's by far the most dangerous seed. It will not hurt you physically because it's made literally out of melted swords. But you got to keep in mind that there are so many people who want who want that power. And that power of wanting is tearing this family apart. But Sir Otto Hightower reached too high. He got burned by the sun. And eventually he pushed too hard on the matter of King Viserys trying to remove his daughter as heir. So essentially, Sir Otto Hightower was removed from power, and he gained a new hand. This was Lord of Harrenhal, Lyron Strong. The king proclaimed, "This hand will not hector me," and he was a good hand. I mean, he was impartial and he was fair, and it's something that you rarely get in the Court of the Dragon. But despite Sir Otto Hightower going back to Old Town, which is his home, and that place where his house is, a house, yeah. Uh, but honestly, there was still a great amount of support for the queen and the queen's conquest, not conquest really, but to get her son on the throne. And as always, King Viserys just is stuck in the middle between the woman he loves, his queen, and his daughter, Queen Princess Rhaenyra. So trying to appease both, I mean, he's straddling that fence a lot. And he just keeps dragging his feet on this issue, and he never just lays down the hammer. That's the part. I like Viserys. I do believe that in every family there should be that peacekeeper, but at some point you gotta lay down the law, you gotta lay down the hammer. And he never really does. He never really just officially says, "This is my daughter because I think she is the best ruler." Period. And he never does that. And so that creates a lot of unknown tension, and that does not go well. So, how do we get the team green and the team red anyway? So, around 1 1 111 AC. So AC in this contract is after the conquest, after Aegon the First conquest. There was a tourney, a great contest between knights about all the realm. So basically, Queen Alicent comes to the tourney wearing a green dress. Queen Princess Rhaenyra comes wearing a black dress. Hence the teams: Team Green, Team Black. And so all the supporters who supported Team Green would walk around court wearing green, and all the supporters who supported Princess Rhaenyra would wear black. And that's how you get the two sides. I mean, you can literally see it. You can see the division in the court. And again, King Viserys just keeps dragging his feet, not really wanting to cause dissension between the two. I love King Viserys. I do. I know he's, I mean, I can understand that. I've been the peacemaker a lot in my family sometimes. But sometimes you gotta pick a side. For the sake of your own mental health, you gotta pick a side. Or just choose to stay out. You know what? Y'all figure this out, and I'm gonna stay over here. Sometimes for your mental health, you just gotta just lay down the hammer. I know you're probably wondering, so where's Prince Damon throughout all this? I mean, I know he's not just sitting on the sidelines. No, he's been over in the stepstones with Lord Corlys. They've been kicking butt and taking names and taking land over these pirates that have taken over the stepstones. These stepstones are important because those are trade routes for the kingdom from other parts as well. So they managed to take over the stepstones. He's been styled now as the king of the stepstones, and as such, he finally comes back to the kingdom. Princess Rainier, of course, is happy to see her uncle. They've always been cordial and good. And he, for a moment, reconciles with his brother. For a moment. But as always, with House Targaryen, peace never stays very long. Now, here's where the three accounts of your Sir Eustace, you have Maester Ranson, and also Mushroom differ. Now, he arrives at court, he's received well by his brother, but then, like, literally a couple days later, he's sent away. One being that Queen Alicent had at her urgence had urged Queen Viserys to send him away. Another was that he just got tired of court life and wanted to go away. But the fool's mushroom, gave a more salacious answer as to why he was sent away. There was gossip, let's just say, some tea being spilled, that something inappropriate had occurred between Princess Rhaenyra and her uncle Prince Daemon. Whether or not this is true, we don't know for a fact. This is House of the Dragon, so you can only just use your imagination. And so to try and keep her good image, they sent Daemon away back to his wife. At this point, his wife is still alive, the first one. And so Princess Rhaenyra was then quickly married off to Lord Corlys' eldest son, Sir Laenor, a knight. But there was another option for Princess Rhaenyra outside of Lord Corlys' son, Sir Laenor. It was Alicent in this context, in this body of work, that actually stated that why not marry Rhaenyra to our son Aegon? At this point, Aegon is still a baby, and Rhaenyra is basically in what they call woman grown. And Prince and King Viserys was like, I don't think so. This is House Targaryen. They did this. They married siblings to siblings, half siblings, but still siblings. But he actually was overheard telling his hand, Lord Strong, Alicent just wants her blood on the throne. So now Viserys is really starting to more actively distrust his queen's opinion, because he's starting to realize that it's more Sir Otto Hightower talking than actually Queen Alicent talking. So yeah, the king in his good wisdom chose, and the small council finally agreed would be Rhaenyra's cousin Laenor Balarion. Still incest, but not as bad as it would be marrying her brother. Not only that, but he was closer in age too. When Princess Rhaenyra, correction, Prince Rhaenyra was 16, Lord Laenor was 19. So closer in age, but there were still complications with that too. There were accounts in the court that he didn't have a particular taste for women. He preferred the company of men. Hint, 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 hint. And so, Princess Rhaenyra was like, look, after we do our duty, you dine as you see fit, I dine as I see fit. So we have a medieval version of an entanglement, if you will. No, I'm not gonna go there. And mind you, though, one of the reasons why she even came up with this idea because this was a certain knight at court that she was quite fond of, known as Sir Christian Cole. This was a knight that was specifically designed, not designed, but signed, there we go, to protect her at all costs. And so, again, this is where the accounts differ. There are some accounts that state she went to Sir Christian Cole to seduce him and he denied her. There have been some accounts that Sir Christian Cole went to her to seduce her and she denied him. Whether or not these accounts are correct, either way, during this time where she got married to Solanor, Sir Christian Cole went from being Princess Rhaenyra's hand and guiding light to now being Queen Alicent's knight. So you got trading of sides here. Now, mind you, though, after they got married, Solanor and Princess Rhaenyra later wasn't really at King's Landing very long. He would be going off on these long ventures and whatnot, and every time he would leave, he'd come back and a baby was born. So it made many a court question whether or not Princess Rhaenyra's children were actually Sir Laenor's or one of her other guards. She has got a thing for her guards. What can you say? Yeah, Princess Rhaenyra had three sons: Jace, uh, Luke, Lucerys, Jacaerys, and then Joffrey, all of whom had brown hair rather than the silver gill hair of the Targaryen princelings. And he was very large, very familiar, very similar to her now god, Sir Harwin Strong. And again, that name Strong, Sir Strong, the hand of the king, that was his father. Let me give you that to him again because I was a little confusing. So, the King Viserys' hand, his name is Larys Strong. Okay? His son, Sir Harwin Strong, is now Princess Rhaenyra's guard. Princess Rhaenyra is married to Sir Laenor. Sir Laenor and Rhaenyra have three children: Lucerys, Jacaerys, and Joffrey. But the boys came out not with white hair like their father, Sir Laenor Velaryon, but like Sir Harwin Strong. So, many at court started to look at these three kids and they're like, yeah. Started to question who their real father was. I mean, it was natural. You could look at the kids and just see, yeah, that's not. Even Queen Alicent made a statement to Sir Laenor, do keep trying. Sooner or later, you may get one who looks like you. Burn. Queen Alicent is not my favorite person, not my favorite character in this entire story. She is very mean, she's very manipulative, she's just an overall just mean girl of the court, if you will. But I gotta admit, that was a nice burn. You gotta give credit where credit due, girl. And the tension between the two, Queen Alicent and Princess Rhaenyra, just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And so at one point, it was just too much. So Queen Alicent kept Red Keep, which is where the king was, and Princess Rhaenyra took her family, her kids, her husband, his lovers, and they went back to Dragonstone. And that's basically where they stayed for a while. Now, some of y'all want to wait. Where's Prince Daemon after all this? Well, Prince Daemon married the sister of Sir Laenor, his Lady Laena. Now, mind you, the name Lady Laena comes familiar because she was the first considered to marry the King Viserys, but she was too young then. Well, she woman grown now, and so she marries Prince Daemon, and they have two daughters, twin daughters, Rhaella and Baela. Now, Lady Lena was she's probably one of my favorite characters. She had a good spirit. All she wanted to do was ride around her dragon and have a good time. But when she came pregnant with her second child, the child died in childbirth, and she ended up dying soon thereafter as well, too. But she was not going to go out like most women do at this, dying on her deathbed. She actually made her way from her room, intent on reaching Vagar, her dragon, that she might fly one last time before she died. But her strength failed her on the tower steps, and she collapsed and died. So she went out like a warrior, in my opinion. So yeah, Lady Lena's death was the first tragedy of 120 AC, but it would not be the last. I mean, funerals are always hard on families. You know, you're grieving over someone you had loved, you had a very close bond with, and also a lot of underhanded jealousy, underhanded, conflicts come out during this fight. You get to see the family ugly side as well too, and you get to see all the tensions that have been going up. It starts boiling, and honestly, at this point, there's so much tension in this family. It's a bubbling, bubbling, bubbling to the surface. And mind you, so Lord Corlys and Princess Rhaenys. Honestly, all these names are so dang on familiar. It's hard to keep count of who's who in this family. Like, I actually saw an interview that George R. R. Martin did when someone asked him, "Why do you keep naming your characters the same?" And he's like, "Well, if you look at any royal family, it's a case in point, like the family in the British Empire in England, it's a history of Henrys and Edwards. So, I mean, it only makes sense that I would repeat the names to just try and keep up." Ugh. But yeah, so Lord Corlys, who's Lord of the Tides, and his lady Bribe, who's Princess Ray's niece, they're mourning the death of their daughter. And then out of nowhere, their son ends up getting murdered in their house. This family just can't catch a break. Now, the circumstances of his murder remain a mystery to this day, but there are many accounts as to what may have happened. Sir Grand Maester Melos writes that only Sir Laenor was killed by one of his household knights after a quarrel. Septim Eustace provides us with the killer's name and declares jealousy was the motive for killing. Laenor Velaryon had grown weary of Sir Carl's companionship and had grown a new favorite, and so that's why it happened. But Mushroom, the fool, as always, favors the more sinister theory, suggesting that Prince Daemon paid Quarry to dispose of Princess Rhaenyra's husband so that he, Prince Daemon, could marry Princess Rhaenyra. Because mind you, with the death of Lady Laenor, Prince Daemon is now free to marry. And he's always loved his niece, always wanted to be with her, always wanted her. So, which side is it? Was it a lover who turned bitter? Was it a rival knight who just wanted to end him? Or was it Prince Daemon himself who paid that knight so that he may marry Princess Rhaenyra? And the reason why that's a theory is because shortly after Lord Laenor dies, Prince Daemon and Princess Rhaenyra marry. Mind you, there is a period of grief that you have to have in order to do this, but they didn't do that. And so that's why many people believe Mushroom's theory. So yeah, as you can hear, there's a lot of underhand bubbling, just bubbling, bubbling, bubbling. And it gets worse, and it gets worse, and it gets worse. So now, we're gonna fast forward this part to where King Viserys dies. He dies in his bed alone, and then his servant comes in, who typically does, to see him, sees that he has passed away. So he goes running off to tell Queen Alicent. Queen Alicent has the servant locked away in a cupboard, or not cupboard, but just locked away so that he can't tell anybody. And so then they call together the Green Council, what they call it, and decide what the succession would be. And so they're like, isn't Princess Rhaenyra next in line? No, it's like a son comes before a daughter, period. And so at the end of the council, they decide, you know what? Prince Aegon will be next in line, and that's the end of that. And so even Prince Aegon himself was like, isn't my sister supposed to take this throne? And the Prince and Queen Alicent was like, listen, your sister will relay that type of loyalty with your death. So basically, yeah, they crown Prince Aegon without telling Princess Rhaenyra in the Dragon Pit. He is now king of the Seven Kingdoms, and by the time that this gets to Rhaenyra, you can imagine she's a little pissed off. Upon hearing that her brother has basically usurped her on the throne, Queen Rhaenyra, Princess Rhaenyra, well, no, Queen Rhaenyra, as she is, technically, goes into labor and she miscarries the baby. And it was a girl. It was a little girl. And so basically, she's at that point. Well, honestly, if I was Team Green, this is not a woman I would want to go to war with. She just lost a baby. So she's in full on war mode at this time. She calls together her Black Council and they come up with the decision on how can we get the throne back. Because I was supposed to be leader, not you. And her counsel was left a lot to be desired. Rhaenyra herself seated beside her uncle husband, Prince Daemon, her trusted counselor, Maester Greylis, and her three sons, Jace, who was 14 at the time, Luke, who was 13, and Joffrey, who was 11. Two king guards stood with him, Sir Eric Garwell and Sir Ark and Sir Lorne. That gets very confusing. So Eric and Sir Ark. Come on, Spotty. Y'all can come up with more creative names than this. I mean, they did have 30 knights, 100 crossbowmen, and 300 men at arms, which not the greatest, but they had dragons. They had 14 dragons to the green 6. So, yeah. But I mean, uh, when dragons enter into war, everything burns. Everything burns. So Rhaenyra doesn't want to do that. She doesn't want to rule over, ash and bone, ash and blood. Can't remember that. So she does send out ravens to the houses that once swore loyalty to her back when she was a little kid, when she became known as the heir, to swear loyalty. So in her mind, if she can get enough lords and ladies of the land to side with her, perhaps she can kind of politic her way back into the throne. She's trying to do this peacefully. She doesn't want bloodshed. And honestly, King Aegon II didn't want bloodshed either, so he sent a raven to Rhaenyra. So he sent ravens to Rhaenyra saying, "Hey, you know what? It is what it is. I'm the firstborn male of Viserys. Let's try and work something out." But Rhaenyra was like, "No, I am the queen. You are my second, and that's the end of that." And when King Aegon II got that answer, he was like, "Oh no, 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 no! It is now war." And so let the dance begin. So, Aegon had proclaimed king in the Dragon Pit, Rhaenyra queen in Dragonstone. All efforts at reconciliation at this point were just mute. It was now war. Either one would live or the other, but neither can live while the other survives. Harry Potter quote. And by all counts, this war was the bloodiest that has ever been fought in Westeros up to this point. Family was fighting family, dragons fighting dragons. It was just a lot. It was a lot of bloodshed. Not only did they lose a lot of dragons, they lost a lot of family members too. By the end of it, there were maybe like less than 3 dragons still left alive, adult dragons, maybe a couple of eggs, and majority of the Targaryen line was either dead or injured. And so, in the end, you have to really, ask yourself, was it really a whole worth it? Was it? Because at the end of the dragon, really though, I mean, let me pause right there. As always with my book reviews, I don't want to tell you everything because I do want you to go read the book because it actually is a fascinating read. Although it's a little dry, I'm not gonna lie. Narration is a little dry, but once you get into the swing of it, honestly, which is why I'm thankful that they added the perspective of Mushroom the Fool because he brings in a lot more interesting gossip that makes you think more. So it does make you ask the question: was it worth it? I mean, half the families that after this point onward, after the Dance of the Dragon, basically the Targaryens lose their entire power. They slowly start to fall out of favor with the people, and it ultimately ends up where Daenerys Targaryen, 100 years later, is now living across the narrow sea because their family is basically outcasts. So again, I have to ask the question: nobody can the family really win when they're feuding? Mm. Anyway, so my book review on that, I'll definitely give it a 3 out of 5 stars as far as storyline telling, because it was a little dry, as I said, not gonna lie. But I do love this world that George R. built. So if you're a lover of the world that he built, a lover of the Game of Thrones books, you're gonna love this one too, because it really gives you more context on how the people felt about the Targaryen family and why this powerful family fall out of favor with the people, not only with their other, noble people, but also with the small folk, how they fell out of favor with them so quickly. So again, it was a great read. I loved it. And so we're gonna take a quick little break here, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about the TV series House of the Dragon, which is based off of this section, The Dying of the Dragon or The Dance of the Dragon. Stay tuned. All right, it is the most wonderful time of the year. It is the holiday season. We're coming into Thanksgiving. Next month is Christmas and whatever holiday you celebrate. So it is a time for get together with family and friends. But also, these holiday seasons can bring a lot of stress too. So, de stress this holiday season with supplements to help you feel better, balanced, focused, no matter how busy your season will get this year. The holiday season is a time for joy, gatherings, but can also be a huge source of stress. Chronic stress can cause chronic inflammation, which can lead to other critical health conditions. There are three hormones that affect inflammation. They are estrogen, cortisol, and insulin. Every main supplement is formulated to help reduce stress and keep you balanced. Depending on what you're experiencing, the supplements shown above here are perfect for balancing your metabolic hormones and your estrogen/progesterone imbalance that happens during stressful seasons. And of course, my besties, I got you hooked up. So type in wellness through reading when you go in and check out, and you get 20% off your first bottle. So head on over to that website, which is www.semainhealth.com, and type in the promo code wellness through reading to get 20% off your first order. As always, I wish you good wellness and good reading. All right, now, welcome back. So, we are talking now about the TV series House of the Dragon by HBO. And just like with the book, I'm not gonna lie, it took me a minute to actually get around to watching it. Because after Game of Thrones last season, I was a little skeptical of how they're gonna do with this one. But once I got into it, I was stuck. I couldn't stop watching it. It was just too good. It basically follows, the reason why I like it so much, it follows the actual story House of the Dance of the Dragon in the George R. R. Martin book to the T. The storyline, the characters, all of that, with of course some changes as well too. Case in point, in the actual book, Queen Alicent and Princess Rhaenyra are at different ages, different stages in life. Whereas in the TV series, they decided to make them the same age. Essentially, they were best friends. Princess Rhaenyra was just kind of like the spare at that point, and Lady Alicent Hightower, as she was known then, was basically her companion, her friend. So I think that was a good route to go to because it makes the betrayal between the two girls even more hurtful when Allison goes on and marries her father. It makes it more underhanded and it makes it more understanding as to why these two women had friction. As I was reading the book, I just didn't understand. These are two women of great power. They could have come together and could have really done some good in the world. It could have made some changes, but the fact that they gave him a bit more backstory about that, it made it more sense as to why they didn't like each other. Because the book was just like, from the moment Allison didn't give birth to a son, they just didn't like each other. And I didn't like that. There's got to be more to the story than just that. And I like this part. So the betrayal of it all, the fact that, Allison had to be the loyal, dutiful wife to her husband, whereas, Rainier got to go off and have, her fun, live her life the way she wanted to live it, that created more tension and made it more interesting of a story. So I like that. Also, I gotta say, in comparison to the book, King Viserys was by far one of my favorite characters. In the TV series, he was just super likable, super relatable. It was just a fun person that you would want in your family member. Maybe not as your king, because he never could make a decision about anything, but as a family member, that's someone that you would want. Prince Damon, on the other hand, Matt Smith is a genius. He played him to the teeth. That's exactly what I was thinking about when I was reading the book. He delivered as Prince Damon Targaryen. He's rebellious. He that little hmm, like he doesn't have to say anything. He just has to be like and you know exactly what he's saying. So yes, well done, bravo. I mean, not a good character at all. People were always shocked when he did things. I'm like, no, that's pretty much on point with Damon. Damon wants the way things done, the way that he thinks they should be done. Even if the way he thinks they should be done are wrong, he still wants it. Case in point, I think it was episode 10, the last episode, where basically King Aegon has been crowned in the dragon pit. Princess Rhaenyra has her black council around her, and Prince Daemon's like, they have declared war on you. What are you going to do about it? Why are you playing nice? Princess Rhaenyra asks the room to be cleared, and so she tries to explain to him why she doesn't want this, and all of a sudden he chokes her. Now everybody was like, whoa. And saw the tweets and everything online, like, why would he, that's quite a character for him. Like, nope. That's very on point with character. Honestly, though, I kind of saw their relationship when it was, which is very, very toxic. I understand this. He's known her since he was a child. So basically, this is a form of grooming, in case y'all didn't know. He wants the throne. He wants to be, he can't, even if he can't sit on the throne, he wants to be near the throne. And who's more near the throne than Princess Rhaenyra, who is the heir to the throne? Which is why he wanted to marry her. Do I think there's love there? It's a twisted, toxic, ill-fated kind of love, if you want to call that love. It's very selfish, self-interested. I think that the relationship he has with Lady Lena, that was real love. And he didn't know how to handle that because that love wasn't chaotic. It wasn't bad. It was love is patient, it's kind, it's wonderful, it's all those good things. And that's what he had with Lady Lena. But she passed away and now he's with Princess Rhaenyra. Do I think that Princess Rhaenyra loves Damon? Well, based upon what I've seen in the TV series, I think it's a infatuation with him. I think it is her first crush. I think it is a girl dinner type of situation there. Google it, don't know what that means. But no, I don't think she loves him in the true sense of the word love. I think she just really just needs her uncle, badass warrior on her side because Team Green is teaming up against her. And it's true. Speaking of Team Green, Queen Alicent, I gotta say, I didn't think I would, but I started to sympathize with her character. I understand now more why she's doing the thing that she's doing. It's really out of bitterness. It's out of jealousy. It's out of the fact that, you know what, you're able to live your life, have the relations and relationships you're able to have, but I'm stuck here with your aging father having to hold this thing all together. So, you know what? Yeah, I do want my son. I do want this. I do want that. Not really, but she does. And yeah, and Queen Alicent for me grew on me. I understood her side of it. I don't always agree with how she does it, but I kind of go along with it. I'm gonna go along with it. What's the better word for that? I am more sympathetic to what she's going through. That's a better word. Sir Otto Hightower. Yes, that character. The actor who plays him very well done. You know, you can definitely see the manipulations going on there as well too. All in all, the actors did a fantastic job with this role. When they did the age difference as well too, it was all well done. The casting, the uh, landscaping, the dragons. We get dragons. Unlike a Game of Thrones, made us wait 11,000 years for a dragon. We got a dragon in the first freaking scene, and these dragons are beautiful. They are massive. They are glorious. They are gorgeous. It's wonderful. And I loved it. I love the TV series. I love the ending. I love how it ended. Because I feel like with the book, it ended the whole actual beginning of the war, the actual Dance of Dragons began when they tried to make peace. King Aegon and Queen Rhaenyra tried to make peace, didn't work out. Okay, now we start war. But in the TV series, the war really starts with the death of Queen Rhaenyra's son. I think that's actually a perfect way to end. And that's actually a perfect way to saying, you know what, okay, let the dance begin now. Because now you have it's one thing to lose a lover in Sir Harwin. It's one thing to lose a child in the birthing room. It's one thing to lose both your parents. You know, Princess Rhaenyra's been through a lot. It's a whole nother issue to lose a baby who's in not even in his prime. He's 11, yes, but that's a baby in a matter of years. And so that pain will make you want to burn down an entire kingdom and just not care who gets hurt. So that for me, that was the beginning of oh yeah, this is now. Now it is war. You murdered my son, now it's war. So yeah, I mean, in all, comparison the two, the book versus the activities, I actually preferred the TV series. It gave me more background on the characters. Yeah, they changed some things like the age differences and whatnot, but it made more sense that way because now I get to see each in their what's the word? There we go. It gave me an understanding of their motivations, why they're doing the things they're doing. What I mean, it can't be just the dang on throne. I mean, like King Viserys even says it in the first episode. The Iron Throne is by far the most dangerous seat to sit on. And that is so true. It's not only dangerous because of the actual seat itself, it's dangerous because of the things you have to do to actually get to sit on it. It's the backstabbing, it's the underhand, it's the lying, it's the people being all sweet and smiling to your face but talking about you behind your back. This kingdom is just freaking corrupt. I think that's a good word for it. And honestly, it's been that way since the beginning. Going back in Fire and Blood, Aegon the Conquest, my thought process the whole time was like, why do we even need the Iron Throne? They had petty squabbles, yes, that's everybody, come on. But in general, the other powers of Westeros were doing just fine before Aegon came on and just had to just conglomerate all his power. So yeah. It's always so funny though with the House Targaryen. Everybody wants to sit on the throne, but once you actually get the throne, no one actually wants to rule. No one wants to do the right thing, take care of the people, make sure everybody's good. Nobody actually wants to be a good leader. Everybody wants to sit on the throne and then have somebody else do it. Hence the fact that they have a hand who does all the work for them. So there you go. That's just my 2 cents on the whole situation. So I can't wait for the second season to start. I believe it starts this summer, 2024. Here's hoping. But yeah. Well, there you go. And as always, I like to leave my listeners with, or viewers, if you're looking at me on YouTube or Spotify, because we do have video, you get to see my pretty face while I'm doing these reviews as well. And so the quote of the day is not based on author, it's more of a rap lyricist, Hova, Jay-Z, Jiggerman, nobody, this is a quote that was just pinging through my head the entire time I'm reading this book and also watching the TV series. Nobody wins when the family feuds. And that's just so true. In the end, House of the Dragon lost all of its strength at the end of their war. Nobody really won. In the end, Queen Rhaenyra ends up being blasted by Sunfire, which is King Aegon's dragon. She dies. King Aegon II only reigns for like a couple of months before he's poisoned by his own men. Rhaenyra's the youngest son, Aegon III of his name. He was Aegon the Younger. So many Aegons. He had a sad and lonely reign. And in the way you can look at it, saying Princess Rhaenyra, Team Black won because it was her bloodline that continued onward, but they didn't live long enough to see the glory of their family. And in fact, generations thereafter were impacted by what they did. So I just leave you with this. Yes, the petty arguments, quarrels, squabbles that you have with your relatives now may seem monumental because you're in the moment, but understand this, what you're doing now will impact you and generations thereafter. Case in point of the House Targaryen. I hate to get all preachy on you, but okay. We're going into the holiday season. We're going to be around people we probably haven't seen for a year. Just remember that as you're going into it. Nothing's that serious. It never is. And again, nobody wins when your family is feuding. So I thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Wellness Through Reading. I thank you so much. Please like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Share with family and friends. And as always, I wish you good wellness and good reading. And happy Thanksgiving!